packed tonight, as they say. I'm gonna go over for a few things, especially because on our agenda we had tonight, I want to make sure that we clear the board of everything. First off, your grades should be finished maybe Wednesday. I don't want to overpromise. Tomorrow I teach, and I also have committee meetings for the whole day. If I get, that good time to be able to invest in it, I will, but they'll be up by Wednesday. If anyone needs that grade, please let me know, and you're all going to email me. Next week, or excuse me, the next session we have is going to be October 10th. Now, I have a request, and the request has come that the MBA director would like to share a conversation with one of our own, and that is Jared Rohrers. So Jared Rohrer basically was a student who was here, got his MBA here, is enormously successful, and we're looking. He would like to speak, and the MBA department is all in favor of it because he's just got such a great story. So let me read to you what they sent me. We want to present you with a unique opportunity to virtually meet and have a conversation with one of our most accomplished MBA alumni and advisory board member of the MBA, Mr. Jared Rohrer. So an hour-long session with him will be formatted in two parts. In the first, he will present his career story, lessons learned, experience valued, and the last half will be an interactive Q&A session. So the MBA department wishes to create this to give you a meaningful interaction with someone who is literally sat where you are now. And as you can look at his resume, it is pretty incredible. This will take over for our hour-long session for October 10th. I consider this to be a class meeting, and I also consider this to be so valuable that I'm willing to give you 10 points on your next test just for showing up, okay? So I'm going to have the meeting online. They will join us online, and then I will let him take over the session, all right? So I hope to see you all October 10th. Thank you there. So next thing on this week's list, I was going to do this week's marketing message, but I'm going to delay that because we've got a lot of things to do. It's going to be on influencer marketing, and it'll be a nice little tidbit for those of you who are just a little bit nebulous on the subject. I think the process of innovation, the article that you had to read right now as I was going through my notes, is quite simply too big of a particular document to talk about all in just an hour-long session and still get what we need done. I'd gotten a text and had been told about its difficulty and what a tough read it is, and usually I would spend at least 30 minutes to an hour talking about it. But I think, once again, with the session that we have tonight, I'm going to delay that, and so I'm going to send an email of a recording that I'm going to do on the process of innovation. So you don't have to listen to me pontificate. I can pontificate and record it and make it easier for you. So we're going to dispense with that tonight, okay? The next is we're going to do an actual case, and you're going to get familiar with what it's going to be able to do with the case. Three things are going to happen tonight. We're going to talk about the case method. I'm going to formally introduce yourselves to your groups, and then together you're going to do a very quick SWOT analysis on an article, and we should be out of here no later than 8:10 at the max, okay? I'll try to hurry this up for you. Okay. So the five-step case method is one of those standards that is used in marketing, and especially it is used by the purveyors of this particular book, which is OC. He has done a great job of nailing down the important things about how do you do case methods, and you're going to be doing a lot of case methods. So this is the article for you. All right. So what is a case method? Well, the case method is a way of trying to be able to recreate reality in the best way possible, and to do it so that you have the ability to go through real life situations, even though it's not necessarily real life. But let's just say that in every case analysis, we're talking about real companies that are in real positions that require real answers. All right. So how do you go about analyzing these things? Well, there is an analysis or a framework analysis that you can use when it comes to case methods, and there's really three reasons why. The first is that the framework provides a comprehensive coverage of the topics and the issues involved. Without a framework, it's very possible that there are some issues that you quite simply miss. There are many things that you might not consider based upon your own experience that a framework will make sure that you answer those questions for. The next is that because you're working in groups, it gives, in essence, a common form of communication between the members. So everybody starts with a similar framework. The analysis as a team is done separately, but you can talk in case method and talk in the same language so that you find some way of communicating your different ideas. And the next final benefit is consistency. It provides a blueprint so that when you go through and you analyze more than one case, you have this basic ability and framework to be able to shape the conversation, to be able to come up with an answer. So what is the case method? So the first thing to talk about is some of the basic kind of rules that you have. The first is that you can't ever figure out a case by reading it one time or doing the analysis during the first time through. Usually the best way to do this is to read it through, get ready, read it again, start taking notes, and there's many ways that you can do that. The next thing that you need to make sure of is that you don't get trapped on the hidden message, all right? And it's important to understand that not always is there a single strategy that's appropriate for everything. So realize that every case is unique. And then the last is to be successful in coming up with solutions is to put yourself in the shoes of the decision maker. And to me, this may be the most important thing. When you work on this role model, be part of the corporation you're trying to come up with the answers for. And so these are the first things to talk about. Now, we're just going to do the first step tonight, and that is going to be on doing a situation analysis. So a situation analysis is a basic understanding. It is a snapshot of the company and the industry at that moment in time in which the decisions are going to be made. And so what is a way of gathering information? Well, for those of you who haven't been inundated with it yet in the MBA school, welcome to the concept of the SWOT analysis. So what does a SWOT analysis look like? Well, you probably have seen one 100 million times, and I think I have a slide here if I can find my way to it. Excuse me. And as I see here, this is the SWOT analysis or the template that I was looking for. And actually, I think I've got a better one than that. Okay, there we go. So this is what a SWOT analysis looks like. Usually it talks about it in a 2x2 frame. And SWOT means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The SWOT analysis was created in the 60s by Stanford's business school. It is used constantly. If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see it again and again. And there's a lot of questions why. Well, once again, if you go back to the 5-step case method and the way that we were doing, the important thing is to come up with a framework that satisfies those three things. It allows you all to talk in a common language. It is a framework for gathering information, and it is also a way of coming up with the answers in a consistent fashion. So, SW, strengths, weaknesses. SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses are internal factors. Those are the things inside your organization that you have control over. So if you look at the first part of this, you'll see like when you're coming up with the ideas, the one thing is a business strength would be considered a strength, as simple as that. What other way does your business, is it better than others? What is the unique technical and professional skills that your organization have? What is the the IO psychology? What is the theme of your particular organization? And what are the strengths as perceived by your competitors, which could be as important? The next is weaknesses. What are your weaknesses in quarter two internal assessments? In what way are your peers better than you? What are ways that you can improve? And what are the weaknesses as perceived by your competitors? Once again, now strengths and weaknesses are internal and micro in nature. You can always ask the question, do I have control over it? And if you have no control over the say of a particular problem, then that is not a strength or a weakness. If I have no control over it, it is the other side, OT, opportunities and threats. Opportunities and threats are external and macro in nature. They are things that you don't have any control over, but they are certainly situations and industry trends that we need to know about. So what unique features can you provide to potential clients? What are the various opportunities in the regions that you're going over? And what other business attributes have a positive impact on your business? What are the best things that you can do to look at what other possible new things are in the future for you to pursue? Threats can be anything from legal to technological to innovative, as innovative is difficult. So the threats can be an absence or a lack of any feature that your product or service is different. If there are any features where my product or service is not different, then that means my product or service is a commodity. And when it comes to commodities, there's really only one way that you can choose, and that's price. Lisa asked, are the groups today going to be the groups for casework through the end of the semester? The answer is yes. These will be your group members. So when I start putting you in breakout rooms, which I will, I would like you to be able to exchange emails with each other. Sorry, I didn't notice that. Thank you for saying. And so the SWOT analysis is what we're going to be talking about tonight, all right? So we're going to take that first step in the process to do case analysis. Let me just carry down with some other key parts that are important. Just remember this, to be able to be careful about making assumptions of listed information. One might assume information is available or is it not. You will be able to search in that particular era of your case to be able to find information, but you got to be careful about making assumptions. Also, when you read the cases, it's important that you separate opinion from fact, because opinion very well may be important if it's a trusted member, but it's important to see what the opinions ultimately spell out when it comes to facts. Another thing is that there may not be any clear single statement of the problems. Just remember this, is that think of what you're doing as the information that you're gathering may not necessarily be the problem. It may be symptoms. And so if I go to the doctor and I have 103-degree fever, the first thing that they may try to do is treat the fever, but ultimately what's more important is to find out what the symptoms mean. Why am I warm? Those are the things that have to be asked more than anything else. And so instead of just simply saying that the sales have declined, you need to take it a step further and perhaps think or consider why those sales have declined. Those are some of the important things that you need to do. One more discussion about the development of alternatives and their evaluation. One of the more important things to realize is that the status quo, believe it or not, many times can be the decision in and of itself. it doesn't mean that you're avoiding a decision, but what you're saying is that based upon your information, you're making a conscious decision based upon a careful evaluation. So don't leave that as something that you're not going to do. Sometimes the status quo is the best of all things. So one last thing before I go on is the final criterion is an important one, is how well do the alternatives coincide with the key findings from the SWOT analysis? And that's the last thing that's important for us to consider. What is the most important analysis point that we can have? Okay, so we have an assignment tonight in which we are going to use a SWOT analysis, and we are going to get together and we are going to go over this particular case. I would like you all to go online and go to, excuse me, I want you to go to, excuse me, sorry, this right here, in class, Can Daniel Dienst Turn Martha Stewart Empire Around? I would like you all to go there, and I would like you to download that, or at least have it to where you could view it. While you're doing that, I want to introduce you to your groups. 3 of the groups have 5 members, and 2 of the groups have 4. I used a random generator to be able to make these groups. I decided against having a group of 3 because I know you're all busy and sometimes you might have to count on each other in infrequent ways. So these are going to be the groups. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to put you in breakout rooms, and I want you to introduce yourselves to each other. So what is the assignment? I want you to read this article. I want you to pull the important facts and opinions, if you consider the opinions to be important. I want you to try to arrange them in a SWOT analysis, decide which ones are strengths, which ones are weaknesses, which ones are opportunities, and which ones are threats. I would like you to spend 20 minutes on this assignment, maybe 30. Put together the SWOT analysis, and then after that, we're all going to come together and talk about it, and we're going to come up with, perhaps, do we have an understanding of where the real problem in Martha Stewart is? Are there any questions? Very good. So, without further ado, let me please start putting together the breakout rooms. What's going to happen is that you're going to be invited to a breakout room, and there you will meet the members of your team. I would ask you to please exchange information with each other. And then after that, start reading the article, and we can work on our SWOT analysis. And I think we're all going to be able to get out of here in time. All right. All right, here we go. Okay, this is group 1. All right. Not all of your members are here tonight, so okay. Now let me do another room. Sorry, folks. Let me cut this. Sorry, bad stuff. All right, hold on.
That's how I leave. And we're back.
All right. So this is the article that I asked you to look at. This article was a BusinessWeek article. If you'll notice, I grabbed it right out of the paper, 1/16/2014. So this is the real world, and this really happened. And this is a article that was printed. And so let's just briefly discuss pieces of the information. All right.
Start in the chat.
So can anybody give me the gist in a sentence or whatever? Please speak up or text or whatever, what this article was about.
MSLO was in shambles. Their stock prices were dropping and shareholders were kind of just leaving by the day. They didn't have the proper organizational structure as well as leadership to turn the ship around. And then there's this guy named Daniel Dentz that gets hired to the team. He's an external. He doesn't have any retail experience, but he comes in there, starts making changes, and then we start seeing a little bit of a rebound in the little time that he's there.
Excellent. Excellent putting together exactly what the article was all about. Yes, it was. And so here we have Martha Stewart, and this is a general article. But one of the great things about it is that just by using the SWOT analysis, you can take anything and be able to do analysis on it and come up with some kind of reasonable conclusion. And so we talked about it. They don't have a CEO. As a matter of fact, how long has it been since they've had a CEO?
10 months.
10 months. How hard is it to find a CEO? I mean, really, how hard should it be? Yeah, you're going to make about 60 million a year. No, that's not the job for me. I mean, it's one of those amazing things that speaks out to you that things are definitely wrong. All right. So it lost $56 million on 197 million in sales, which if you do some hasty calculations, that means that there's 250 million in expenses that isn't being covered. So there's a lot going on here that needs to be looked at. So I want someone, or what we're going to do is, I've got a little Word document here that I have called Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats. And what I would like for you to do is, I would like for you in each group, I'm just, one at a time, give me a strength or a weakness or each one. So you can just shout out, what would you give a strength to Martha Stewart or MSLO?
They have brand recognition.
Brand recognition. Boy, is that right. It's known all over the world, no doubt about it. That's what Martha Stewart has for her. Okay. How did they manifest that in the conversation? Did it say?
I mean, in the article, it talks about how she started out by selling products in I guess it was the 90s through Kmart using her name and endorsing stuff. And then how she went on to sell the same version basically to Macy's. And apparently Macy's still thinks it's worth some money because they're trying to fight her in court to get it back. So,
Oh my God, yes. The name is sacred. Okay. I mean, there's a lot there. So somebody give me a weakness.
Turnover of leadership.
Boy, that is a big one. I mean, like I said, when you look over it, I mean, the turnover is not only bad, but it's the people that are turning over. So, I mean, in 2012, it's Alicia Gersh, excuse me, who founded Oxygen Media, and I mean, she walks out in 5 months. So that kind of says you that there's a big problem in there somewhere. Anybody give me an opportunity?
Overseas, she can tapping into the global market.
Overseas expansion, yeah, because Martha Stewart really isn't everywhere. And certainly you could think of it, you know, the vast amount of her enterprises in the United States. That's true. So somebody give me a threat.
The marketing of her product, and she hasn't really updated her product since the 90s, really. So whereas she used to be the sole voice of how to do things and advice, now you have millions of people on Snapchat and TikTok and Facebook, and they're, you know, they mentioned the pioneer woman in the article giving free advice, and she has not figured out with her group how to change their product and move into that space and embrace it in a proactive manner.
Yeah, I think there's a big issue there, and absolutely. And the interesting thing about it is that if you read in the article, it says that their website gets 4 million hits a month, and that's just a tremendous number. She has that very same strength, and yet she looks down on it. Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, yeah.
I like, now that we've kind of, you know, got the juices flowing, somebody else tell you something that enlightened you or disturbed you. Somebody just throw it out there.
The money that she paid somebody just to drive her across, I don't have the exact amount, but it was astronomical how much money she threw at somebody just to drive her around.
$125,000 for a weekend job. That's the weekend job I want.
Yeah. Her compensation doesn't seem to be attached to the success of the company. She's getting paid regardless. And for a lot of things maybe that you wouldn't normally see.
Right. So we got this $125,000 for the weekend driver. What other perks out there that seems to be going on that seems to be speaking of not good leadership? Anything else?
I think the financing of her family members.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Financing of her family members. So can you give me an example?
Yeah, she like she's paying, I think, her sister to do blogger work, even though she doesn't like bloggers.
Yeah.
So she's paying her sister, and then she's paying her daughter, trying to get her daughter to do radio stuff.
Yes, because she wants to relate to a younger audience. Did you see how old her daughter was?
No.
46. I am just not sure that they're going to relate with everyone. I mean, especially in a younger generation as well. And so, yeah, I'm really all over that. Anybody want any bright things? Any things that you say speak to some hope?
I really liked her pioneer merchandising licensure. It's sort of like, Appalachian State when they license off their image or their brand or their products. That was really smart because Kmart could run out and deal with all the hassle of hiring and working all the supply chain and all that sort of thing. And Martha Stewart Living didn't have to organize or warehouse or ship anything. So that's a strength that I don't think that they have continued to drive forward to create future success for them.
I totally agree with you. They're an open house for really being able to create brands, but not just Martha Stewart brands, but subsections of Martha Stewart brands as well. So I'm like you 100% there. So what was the problem they had with licensing?
They got a little too close with Macy's and JCPenney.
So they think that, yeah, two companies were having issues with the licensing deals.
Yeah.
Now, that's one of those stated facts that actually leads to a general assumption. If I'm talking about two corporations that are concerned that their licensing deal is being, compromised, what does that imply about the organization skills inside of Martha Stewart?
It probably implies that there's not a lot of checks and balances going on to make sure that they're not creating duplications.
Absolutely. And yeah, once again, you basically, it's called being uncovered. You don't have all your bases covered. And that's a dangerous thing. And it's a failure of organization. It's a failure of leadership. There's a phrase in there that they had about the people around Martha Stewart. What do they call it?
Friends of Martha.
Yes, Friends of Martha. Exactly. And it's those Friends of Martha that I think are part of the issue. And it has to do with, everything that they have an issue going on now. This person that they hired, is there any bad side, or let's just say a possible negative point?
Yeah, he is in that inner circle and was before he came.
Exactly. He is very good. He's a friend of Martha. And so once you ask yourself, you put all these things together, so you got all these pieces now. What is the problem with Martha Stewart?
Martha Stewart.
Yes, I was waiting for someone to say that. I was hoping somebody would actually say that. Yes. The problem with Martha Stewart, unfortunately, is Martha Stewart. As with every leader of, especially one who's well known and their face is the company, that individual has to be at the very top of their game. And it is no offense to Martha. It's just quite simply that she needs better advice, that the time has moved on like everything. And one of the difficulties is the wheel is always turning, and you have to be able to maintain and stay up with the wheel. Otherwise, the wheel runs you over, for the lack of a better word. Okay. So very good. I'm very encouraged by this. I want you to know you can take this with anything. Like I said, this is a BusinessWeek article. And use this, all right? It is a way of being able to consider thoughts that you may not have had before. And so I encourage you to think in this model in this proper way. Now, what was the future of Martha? The answer is, unfortunately, Martha Stewart was bankrupt, okay? Or let's just say it was bought by another corporation. And I think the asking price was something like $250 million. And that's actually after Martha Stewart had shrank from like 2.9 billion. So Martha is still there, but she's no longer on the board. She is a spokesperson, which she does very well. And she's doing just fine. Okay. No shame in it. She built an empire, and the empire is still going on. So the best to her. All right. I actually think we're finishing before 8 o'clock. Okay. So October 10th, the next session, you'll be meeting with the MBA or the MBA program, and you will be introduced to the Mr. Jared Rohr, and I will be here online with them, bring them in, and then I will stay on during the rest of the time. Oops, we got a chat. Yes, I do love those commercials too. I think Martha has finally gotten good advice. I think she is iconic, and I think that is her greatest asset. And it doesn't matter that she's not a great business person or she had difficulties. The fact is that she did outstanding, and the corporation still survives. There are great corporations that, given effort by individuals, can keep going on. So, hey, the best to her. I think she's in her late 70s. I'm not sure, but she still has the desire to go on. So what can I say? Best to her. Okay, folks, we're getting through before 8 o'clock at 7:59. If nothing else, everyone have a good night. I will post these videos, and best to you.
You
Have a
too.
good night.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Good night.